Hey guys, Deadeye Magic here. Still got a little bit of a sore throat, but I'll work through it because they just released an article with all of the Ixalan mechanics, and there's quite a few actually. So first we got the Warriors of the Sun Empire, which is the people who ride around on dinosaurs. By the way, you're going to notice that uncreative, cliche, boring, stupid names are kind of the thing for Ixalan. Just wait till you hear what the pirates are called. Anyway, their big mechanic that goes on the dinosaur cards, well not all of them, but some of them, is Enrage. So the example is Sun-Crowned Hunters. Whenever they're dealt damage, it deals 3 damage to target opponent. So that's kind of neat. They basically just invented Wobbuffet. Maybe the dinosaur on the left is Wobbuffet, and the one on the right is Mr. Mime. Well, okay, it's not preventing and then reflecting damage back. It's just like a little bit of payback. You know, you hit it, and maybe it bites you or something. I don't know. So this is, not the most exciting thing ever. It looks kind of annoying to play against, which is usually a pretty good sign. I cannot for the life of me remember what the hell the one from Hour of Devastation is called, where whenever they become blocked, you take damage anyway. I just keep calling it mini trample, because that's pretty much what it is. It's like, trample is insanely powerful, and so they just made like a miniature version of it. It's like, oh, it's a 6/6, but then if you block it, you take 2 damage anyway. So, a little watered down version of trample, something in between. I kind of like that. It was really annoying to play against because it kind of breaks down the whole, oh, I'm going to block you, okay, we're good. I'm going to chump block you, okay, we're good. But that's what trample did in the first place, so you can't really complain too much. So this is just like the 2.0 version of it, although it extends to damage done by any kind of spell or ability or anything. So would you try to kill this by dealing it 4 damage? Probably not. So, a little bit of protection, but it's not even on par with hexproof. So it's kind of cool. I just don't like that, this right here is a 5/4, no flying, no first strike, no trample, nothing, just vanilla monster, and it costs 6. So it's not just like, oh, and here's an added bonus. It's like, no, you paid for that. You paid the mana for that. But this time it's worth it. So this, I don't know, just looks cool. Like if it happens to fit in your deck, and it's like on tribal and you get a boost, there you go. Oh, and for the record, if you were to double block a creature with Enrage, you do not trigger it twice. Next up, we got the pirates in the Brazen Coalition. Oh my god. That's just like so dumb and uncreative and generic. Oh, the Brazen Coalition. We're brazen. I mean, it could have been something cool like the Twilight Sails. Anyway, here's their awesome mechanic. They amass treasure. That's actually what it says, but it has literally not one thing to do with treasure. So, they have the raid mechanic, which I'm pretty sure is coming back from like Tarkir or something like that. It's kind of cool. I don't love it because I don't know if they're just giving really bad card examples, but you're going to see a trend here. So, Deadeye Tormentor, whenever it enters the battlefield, if you attacked with a creature this turn, target opponent discards a card. So, that is pretty powerful, that particular trigger, but it could just be like, I don't know, you get a counter on something. Ooh, whatever. So, it's kind of like Revolt. It's like a check trigger. Here's the problem. If you had a reason to bring this out during the first main phase, it doesn't work. And then you lose it. So it's kind of an unreliable mechanic. I mean, in fact, if this is your last creature and you just top decked it and everything else got killed, you drop it out and then you lose the ability. Now, okay, whatever, you can't have it all. Nothing works out perfectly, except this is a 2/2 vanilla creature for 3. That's absolute trash. So if it's not like, oh, here's a creature, and you get this cool bonus, maybe sometimes. No, you better get that bonus because you paid for it. You paid 3 mana for a vanilla 2/2, so you better get something better for your money. I mean mana, but whatever. And yeah, like I said, same thing as Enrage. You overpaid for it. And they always do this whenever they do a really kind of in-between medium level trigger, or ability or mechanic, I should say. They always throw it on a creature that costs too much. Like, you're paying for it. So the best thing I can say about this is if you're already losing the game or you have an inferior board state, this is not going to help you and you're going to miss the trigger. Because if they got 5 creatures and you've got 1, you're not going to be able to swing. Just as simple as that. And there's very, very few flyers in Standard right now. Now, there are unblockable merfolk. That's going to be annoying as hell. But then making your whole deck unblockable just to support raid, last time around, raid wasn't very powerful. Now, obviously, if you're not familiar, doesn't matter if the creature died, doesn't matter if they were bounced back to hand, removed from combat, they don't have to successfully hit, doesn't matter how many you swung with, it's just a real simple binary condition. Did a creature become an attacker, and declaring a creature as an attacker is not an action that can be responded to. So, there you go. Okay, so here's the treasure part. So, check out Prosperous Pirates. Whenever it enters the battlefield, create 2 colorless treasure artifact tokens. So, kind of like clues, except you sacrifice it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So, it's kind of like Scions. Now, Scions were cool because they were also creatures you could like boost them and do crazy stuff, and Cryptolith right with them was just mental. A couple decks like that really took off. But you might have noticed, this is a vanilla 3/4 that costs 5. It's just, when would this not work? I mean, it's just, it enters the battlefield, you get it. Ta-da. I mean, unless they disallowed it. So this reminds me of all the, like, I don't know, Eyeless Watcher and like all the Eldrazi Scion dumpers where they're horribly overpriced, but you get like 2 or 3 Scions with it. So this card specifically looks pretty decent. I mean, it's a little high on the curve. It's like, do you really need more mana ramp if you're already at 5? I guess if you have like a 7 cost spell. So if you build a 100% ramp deck, maybe throw some green in there, I could see it. So I do kind of like this, but, you know, I think they know this by now. This is a very basic tenet of Magic. You cannot let this get out of control. You cannot let people do what they do now, which is generate a clue on turn 1. Which, okay, a clue isn't exactly a mana generator, but I mean, there is no way to drop out a Scion on turn 1. It can't be done. Unless I'm forgetting something. It's actually pretty hard to drop one out on turn 2 as well, because they don't want you to have like 5 mana on turn 3. That's just inherently broken. That's what has resulted in a bunch of bans in Modern. A lot of those pay 2, get out 3 kind of spells. So you can't let ramp get out of control. Like Dark Ritual, that was just crazy. But mid to late game, I like it because it lets you, you know, cast stuff that's too expensive for your deck normally. Also, these are harder to blow up than, you know, Elvish Mystic clones. So, yeah, I think this would be kind of fun. You know, I don't like that they're artifacts, but I can't imagine what else they would have made them. And also, I was going to be missing Scions when they cycle out. So, yeah, overall, I think this is kind of cool. They did say that, I thought they said this somewhere, that like, there might be like an activated ability that brings this out over and over and over, or a triggered ability. And that might get a little excessive, but if it's like once per turn with a tap ability, whatever. I mean, the big problem with mana ramp right now is the X spells. I know we're going to be losing like Rolling Thunder, but a Torment of Hailfire is worse. If you cast that for 10, you just won the game. I mean, there's no coming back from that. Well, then there's also like Walking Ballista. We are going to be losing on this one though, so there's a couple cards I'd be concerned with if the mana gets a little too high, but that's usually how Magic works. So next up, they have what they're calling a mechanic, but it's not. It's just a tribal. It's an overall theme. It's the River Heralds. What is it, a newspaper? God, these names, they're just so generic and uncreative. Anyway, it's the stupid Merfolk. Oh god, just wait till you hear this. What do you hate about Merfolk in Modern? What do you hate about that deck? Now think about it for a second. Yep, that's what they did. So it says the Merfolk strategy revolves around being very difficult to block and growing via 1/1 counters. They don't have a named keyword and thus don't have a preview card in this article. That logic, I don't follow that. If you're a Merfolk fan, don't fret. There are plenty of goodies in store. They could have thrown up an unblockable Merfolk or somebody with Island Walk. So yeah, I hate that. I hate everything about the Merfolk deck. It's like, here's a bunch of crap. I've got the spells to cover it because I'm playing blue. And I'm going to hit you and there's nothing you can do. You could bring out 20 creatures, doesn't make a damn ounce of difference. I'm just going to hit you and you're going to lose the game. It just comes down to another stupid binary condition. Do you have enough creature removal or do you not? And it's not even about how good your deck is. Some decks don't run a lot of creature removal. Some of them run Death Touchers. Well, now Death Touchers don't mean a damn thing. Neither do walls, neither do flying creatures. You're going to get hit. Now, the big thing about Merfolk is they have multiple sets to draw from in Modern. If they keep this one kind of tame and there's really only one best way to run it and it's not that good and it's not that high damage output and it's like a win on turn 8 on average, okay, that might be doable. But the fact that everybody's got to lean on board wipes and creature kill sucks, but you kind of have to right now. I mean, there's the counter decks where you get more bang for your buck by blowing something up that had 4 counters dropped onto it. Then there's all the red rush decks where you need creature removal or you're going to lose. And there are like life gain decks that might maybe play around a Merfolk deck, but I just hate that they're blue because then control going along with a really annoying strategy, really annoying in general. So the fact that they'll get counters and stuff probably every time they hit, they'll probably draw cards like crazy. There is some hit and draw support, which is going to get annoying. I don't like Merfolk. I mean, what are they going to bring back next? Elves? So next up, the Legion of Dusk. Sounds like a B-level movie. Guess what? They're vampires. Big surprise. That's probably why they're called the Legion of Dusk. So the vampires don't have a named keyword, but their overall strategy is very unsurprising. It's manipulation of life. You know, if you're familiar with the vampires from mostly that set with all the allies and crap, I forgot what it's called. I think it was BFZ, that's right. If you choose to serve the Legion, you'll find yourself paying life for powerful effects, you know, because that's what vampires do. It's all like necro, blood magic, whatever. And regaining that life via lifelink, because, of course, and other abilities, you know, kind of like every time they lose life, you gain life, you know, triggers like that. So yeah, it's a drain away deck. They said you'll be ultimately draining the life from your foes. So yeah, you can kind of sit there with a board state that's not great, maybe have some flying creatures, but every time you draw a card or every time your opponent blinks, they lose life and you gain life. So I'm a big fan of decks like that. I tend to play black-white a lot with that strategy. And it's resilient, it's good, and it's control colors. By the way, the vampires this time around are mostly white, which is very interesting. So next up, we got something really interesting. Don't know how I feel about this one. I got mixed feelings. It's the Explorer keyword. So let's look up Tishana's Wayfinder. Oh god, a merfolk that isn't limited to blue. Oh, why not? Technically, they might not be blue at all this time around. I mean, it would be kind of weird if they weren't, but everything's getting a color shift in Ixalan. So this says, whenever it enters the battlefield, it explores, and then explore is reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand, not onto the battlefield, if it's a land. Otherwise, put a 1/1 counter on this creature, and then you can put the card back on top or into the graveyard. So a lot of flexibility, a lot of options, a lot of decisions. It kept saying that that's what they're going to focus on is decision-heavy, multi-mode, you know, player skill, kind of read the battlefield state, make a proper decision level stuff. Not just, oh, look, I pulled the right card, or oh, look, I pulled the wrong card, you know, because that's not skill. So, okay, it's land dump, you know, cool. So you can unreliably, maybe once every 3 times this goes off, get a land, because about 1/3 of your deck is land. So it's not really like, oh, I'm gonna get to 8 mana and then cast this 8-cost spell. No, not really reliably. But then the other thing is, I'm going to make this creature gigantic. Well, maybe not. The scry part of this is actually the best. It's not even scry, you chuck it in the graveyard. But yeah, you reveal the top card. Now, if it's a land and you don't need a land, too bad. You have to put it in your hand. It doesn't even say may. Like, that thing's going to your hand. That's it. It's been settled. Now, otherwise, you put a 1/1 counter on this creature, this specific creature, not a creature. So, okay. I mean, considering this creature sucks, that's a shame. But hey, I have one with a 10/10 Birds of Paradise, so, you know, something gets enough counters, you know, hey, start hitting them with it. So if you put the card back on top of your library, your opponent already saw it and they know it's coming. If they're not an idiot, they'll remember that next turn. If you didn't need it, okay, you got a card you don't need out of the way, and maybe you moved yourself closer to a land. You've got a little bit of a chance of that happening. So I don't like mana ramp that isn't reliable mana ramp. So this is just kind of like a take it or leave it. Okay, some of the creatures in my deck happen to have this, not I'm going to build an Explore deck. Because first of all, landfall is gone. I mean, that's going to cycle out. And secondly, if you're relying on getting to like 5, 6, 7, and 8 for some big hitter spells, this is not the way to do it. Over the long term, you might do it, but it's a pretty fast standard right now, and it still will be after the sets cycle out. So, like I said, I don't really know how I feel about this. I mean, it's kind of like, oh, a neat bonus on something that already was a merfolk, and I already have a merfolk tribal boost. Woohoo. That's kind of cool, except, we're going back to it again, it's a 2/2 vanilla creature that costs 3, so you damn well better get like a counter out of it just to get this thing back up to what it should have been in the first place. So I like that they didn't go out of control with it, where, you know, the second it comes out, it might be a 4/4 for 3. That's not really pushing it for green, but it's, you know, it's up there on the power scale, especially for a common. So I don't know, this whole thing strikes me as like unreliable, unpredictable, and I don't like it, but it's still good. You get a good outcome no matter what. It's not just, oh, is the top a land? Okay, it's not great. You get to do nothing. Now, there is one little catch to this, because they made it sound a little bit better at the end here. I think somewhere in here they said you might get this as a recurring ability, obviously, like a recurring trigger instead of just ETB. It's not going to be limited to just ETB, but there are going to be other cards whose abilities trigger whenever another creature explores. So that is actually interesting. So that might actually make it worthwhile by itself. So that might make it possible to do an Explore deck and maybe throw in some like X spells, some control spells, or some big heavy hitters. But we'll see. I mean, that it just sounds like they're narrowing you down, just like the Merfolk deck, to just one deck. Like, this is clearly the best way to build this one deck because the card support just isn't there. It's a self-contained type of thing. And build it or don't, and then everybody knows about it. That's kind of dumb, but at least it's easy. Like you can just be like, okay, obviously, like this is the deck that they wanted us to build. I mean, Black Red Madness Vampires, clear as day which cards were supposed to go in there. You could tweak it, but the core cards, it was really obvious what they were going for. The same with werewolves. I mean, there was really just one way to build werewolves, and anything else was lesser. So I don't personally love that, but I don't know. I can see the silver lining on that. Next up, we've got ships, aka vehicles. Literally not one thing changed. You still crew it. It still works the way you think, and it's still unreliable, stupid crap that's never going to win a tournament. Let me explain vehicles the way that I understand them, from what I've witnessed and from what I've played. It's creatures that are moderately okay. They're kind of powerful, but not overboard. And you need another creature on the field, otherwise they're a dead card. So that's already a giant weakness. And if you have two creatures, you have to put all your eggs in one basket and only swing with one. Oh, and then your vehicle gets hit with Immolating Glare, and bye-bye. Also, it can get blown up as a creature and as an artifact. They're just weak. They're just weak, unreliable creatures, and a 4/3 for 4 would barely be worth putting in your deck even if it was like a green creature. None of this crew crap. Like, it would actually be a full-time creature, not a part-time creature. So, absolute dead-on-arrival garbage cards are not even good in sealed. I cannot believe they brought vehicles back. From what I heard, nobody liked them. Even the pros were sick of making crewing mistakes and order of operations mistakes, and when is it or isn't it a creature, and oh, you gotta crew it to get on defense if it has vigilance, and it's just dumb. It just doesn't work. It just limits the damage output of your deck, and unless you get an absolute top-level runaway creature that's overpowered as hell, and by that I mean vehicle, they're just not good. So next up, they said they're bringing back two-faced cards because people didn't complain about that enough yet, apparently. Let me just list off the things that double-faced cards don't work with in Magic. Draft, at all. I mean, last I heard, they had to open the packs, sleeve them, and then put them back in the packs and just kind of scotch tape them together. That way people wouldn't, know what you're drafting from the back. It ruins playing unsleeved. You now cannot do that. You have to buy sleeves, which is going to piss off some of the more budget players. Oh, but wait, you can play unsleeved as long as you're running proxies, which you do not have room for in your deck box because you already have 75 cards in there. That's about the limit. And so then you don't have the flippable ones, and then you got to put them in clear sleeves, which who the hell owns those? Penny sleeves provide absolutely no protection, so you need actual clear dragon sleeves or something. And then you can flip it over and see both sides. Otherwise, you'll leave the proxy token on the field. And then the flipped version is sleeved in your deck with a normal sleeve. So then people don't know what the hell the card does, what its abilities are, and neither do you. You got to keep checking. Then you got to take it out of the sleeve in your deck box, read the other side. It's just stupid. It is absolutely stupid. And then somebody says, what does it do when it flips? Oh my god, then you gotta go get it, take it out of the sleeve, flip it over, let them read it. There is nothing good about two-faced cards. I mean, they're dynamic and it's a permanent that changes. Cool, I like that. It adds a new aspect to the game, but they could have done like Embalm where you just go get a unique token and slap it down. Still kind of the issue with does it fit in your deck box, but, whatever. So everybody across the board universally hates these. They're a hassle, they're annoying, and the more expensive flip cards, you're going to damage them taking them in and out of the sleeve, which is what most people do because they don't want to dick around with these stupid proxy cards that they can't even read. Wizards, stop printing flip cards. The first time around when they did it, it almost destroyed the game. That is not an exaggeration. People were so pissed off at the sheer annoyingness of running it that they were just done with it. Well, they haven't learned their lessons yet, but it's cool looking, and it is. I mean, you look at this Treasure Map, Treasure Cove. That's a neat card frame. I mean, the rarity is on the top center. I don't know why the hell they wanted to do that. It's readable. It's in a normal font. I'll give them that. The word land is way too high and not center aligned. I thought that was kind of weird. But, I don't know, it looks neat, I guess, but it also kind of doesn't look like a Magic card. I don't know. It'll stand out if you accidentally put it back in your deck with the wrong face showing, which is another thing that people do, which is usually, at a high level, probably like a game loss or something. I don't know. Maybe they just give you a warning and let you correct it. I don't know. Certainly gives away what card it is, doesn't it? Hey, see if you can figure out what I think they should have done, if this sounds familiar to you at all. Pay 1, tap scry 1, put a landmark counter on treasure map. If there are 3 or more landmark counters on it, remove those counters, transform it, and create 3 treasure tokens. That's kind of cool. And, they have, sacrifice, add 1 mana of any color. Hey, that sounds like brick counters, which they implemented brick counters and secondary brick triggers and abilities without making a second side. And yeah, they probably, if they cut out the explanations and crap, could have put this all on one side and just said, if it has 3 or more counters, then you can do this. It worked just fine for the pyramids. I don't know why they felt the need to make these flip again. We were just about to lose shadows in their flip cards, and now we're back. They still can't use semi-transparent sleeves, and it's just going to be a nuisance to everybody. I just hate everything about 2-face cards. By the way, they actually have 3 faces, not 2. Look it up in the rules. That's a fun little caveat there. Now that said, this is going to be one of the most powerful sought-after cards in the whole damn set, because that's absolutely crazy. The scry effect is wonderful. You can go fetch your 7-cost spell, and then when you finally get this going, and it only costs 1, so that's reasonable. It's not even worth an artifact destruction spell either. Then you get 3 additional mana, and you can cast whatever you were going scrying for. So it's like a little self-contained bomb fetcher and payer for. So next up, we got something that everybody's pissed about because this is just idiotic. There was no reason for them to do this. Planeswalkers are now legendary, so check out Jace here, who apparently got a haircut. He looks really ugly. So Jace, Cunning Castaway, is now a legendary Planeswalker Jace, and as they put it, starting with this set, all Planeswalkers past, present, and future will have the super type legendary. Oh boy. So who cares? They were already legendary, right? Technically, no, but pretty much yes. There was something called the Planeswalker uniqueness rule, and that is now going out the window. They are just going to treat them like legendaries, which means that you can have 2 Jaces on the field that are different Jaces. Normally, you would not be able to do that. Most people were not aware of that rule. So if you had old Chandra and new Chandra, you could not drop them out on the field at the same time. So actually, I'd say maybe 50% of players knew that and 50% did not. So now you can have them because with the legendary rule, they have to have the exact same name. What the hell was the point of this? Why did they think that 2 mostly redundant cards that have a centralized common strategy would be a good idea? Well, especially now that you're letting people play monocolored with more Planeswalkers. That's not good. What we need in the game right now is less Planeswalkers, especially less Planeswalkers on the field at the same time. So to allow somebody to do like a control Planeswalker like Jace, or a fetch or kill, removal control Planeswalker like Liliana, and have those stack up. Now you got 2 removal sources. That's just too much. You can't come back from that. And that's the problem with a lot of Planeswalker decks is when they get a board state out of a certain caliber, you cannot come back from that. And you might say, okay, well, that's Magic, but it's just too damn easy with Planeswalkers. You got to do 6 damage to her and 4 damage to him and then resume hitting on the life total. And the whole time you got to deal with the recurring abilities going off like a spell every single turn. And you get 2 Gideons out, you basically just have 2 indestructible creatures. I mean, that's ridiculous. If you break out 2 token generators, which I can't really give an example of one that would be the same name. Either way, that would be stupid as hell too. So I don't like this. It was completely unnecessary, and it's going to screw with all other formats. I don't think Modern needed more than 1 Liliana in a deck. That's just dumb as hell. So there is not one single upside to this decision. It is just negatives, making the game more of a hassle, making the game harder to win, and making it easier to build overpowered, obnoxious decks. I guess the upside as they see it is people are going to spend more money on Planeswalkers. So, yay, instead of this is the good one, this is the bad one, Now keep in mind, though, there's always the Planeswalker decks. So there's always going to be 2 of something. I mean, I guess they could print something different in the Planeswalkers deck as they did in the real set, but they've never done that. Now, they have announced, though, a while ago that they're going to limit every set from here on out to 1 Planeswalker from the Gatewatch per block instead of 3 or 4. So there is that, so the chance of there being an overlap is a little bit lower, but why did they feel the need to screw with Commander and Modern? That's just dumb. Now here's the other thing. Okay, now they're all legendary. Cool, I could use them as commanders. Nope, you still can't. Sorry. And by you still can't, I mean you absolutely can because Wizards can't tell you what to do. They don't even really have control over the Commander format. They don't run the ban list, and it's a casual format. So as long as you're not playing structured play, you can just do whatever the hell you want. So if your play group and your friends say you can use a Planeswalker as a commander, then more power to you. Go for it. So, this Jace is actually pretty good. He costs 3. I'll probably be playing him. That's cool. Hopefully I can get some copies of him. He just sounds pretty neat. He's a little fragile, but that's how Jace always is, and he's not absolutely overwhelming, but a 3-cost Planeswalker that has 3 loyalty is just good by default. Except for Tybalt. He's crap. So that's it for the mechanics. Went pretty in-depth on it, what I think of them, how I think they'll work. Nothing too exciting, but nothing like, oh my god, I can't believe I have to play against that. So that's more important than, oh, look at this big shiny new thing. So it's nothing on par with like Devotion, where it's just like crushingly oppressive and unbelievably rampy. And that's good. I mean, if you're like, oh, I'm not excited about any of these, well, you might be, though, especially at the pre-release, where it's like, oh, I get a little bonus, I get a little recurring trigger, cool, a little bit extra synergy, just a little bit of combat tricks, nothing too special, just subtle little combat manipulators, and I think that's kind of cool. I mean, I'd maybe give them a 7 out of 10. It's not a 10 out of 10. It's not like, oh, that sounds so awesome. By the way, I think they're going to bring Devotion back. There are so many double-colored permanents right now. I think they're ramping up to bring out Devotion, maybe even in the next set. So that would be awesome. It's my favorite mechanic of all time by a long shot. But what do you guys think about this? I mean, the only absolute DOA, dead on arrival pile of garbage is vehicles. They're going to be just utter crap. They're unplayable. You're way too open to creature removal. Everybody in the grandma is going to be running creature removal. Your crew is going to be dead, and your pirate ship's going to rot. So that's a real disappointing one, but it's colorless, whatever. It's not like they just eliminated an entire color's primary mechanic. So that's about all I got to say about this. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section, and I will see you guys next video.